economic content?
The answer is yes. I think you have come a long way, especially the business reporters.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of what I would call issue-based discussions. And your research is also fairly sound.
Yes.
So to that extent, at least you have shaped some of the discussions.
All
well
right.
done.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics today is releasing the economic survey of 2015, and according to what they say, the Kenyan economy expanded by 5.6% in the year 2015. That is compared to 5.3 in 2014 and 5.7 in 2013. What do you make out of these percentages?
The actual figures are not a surprise, because if you remember in December, the World Bank had already projected that the economy will grow by 5.6.
Yeah.
So basically they are just reconfirming what was out there. The key thing is what made us not go to originally what we had planned, which was 6.7. At the time, the CS Treasury presented the budget last year.
Yeah.
And basically there were three items which basically are being discussed as the one which has made the economy not grow. The first is the credit squeeze, because of course government has increased its rating, so you have excess government debt, which then squeezes what you call available credit to private investors. The second one was of course the El Nino phenomenon, in terms of removing part of the focus on infrastructure, and also indirectly throwing some of the projected roads and those type of items. And the third one, which is a bit unfortunate, is the whole area of the economy in terms of purchasing power. The ability of people to buy and consume goods seem to have slowed down. What that means in economic indicators is that the poverty number has gone up.
Right.
So those are the silent areas that I think people need to start asking, so what going forward?
All right.
Yeah.
So the president earlier this year, during his State of the Nation address, said that the economy would be growing by about 6.1% this year. But from the estimates that we are looking at, 5.6% in 2015, is this realistic that we could see this jump to 6.1% this year?
It will not go beyond that. Basically what happens, and it's something Kenyans need to understand, immediately the minister raised what you call the proposed budget to parliament on 30th April, which was basically a 2.26 trillion budget. The second item that is released to the public is the economic survey.
Right.
Now, the people of Kenya have now a whole month, which is called May, to interrogate if this is what was happening, if this is the recorded, and this is what is being proposed. Are we going in the same? Do we need to change? Are the allocation by the minister correct? So that's the basis where the economic survey by the Minister of Planning comes out. But once it is released, the data in the survey is basically government data.
Okay.
So the 5.6 is government information.
Okay.
As of now.
All right.
Yes.
So let's get back to 2015, and they're saying the growth, is being attributed to improved agriculture returns and also infrastructure development. Would you say that this is entirely the reason why we are seeing this growth at 5.6%? Which are the other areas that we could have seen growing in the year 2015?
The bigger drivers of the 5.6 is basically partly the media. Kenyans may not see that, but it's a big driver in terms of consumed data through social media, through content, new films and all that. What we call new service industry. The second major driver is construction. And construction, of course, sits in both the infrastructure by government and also the ordinary investors in building houses and all that. So that whole area of construction in total is a big driver in the 5.6. The third one is, of course, what I would call an element of the governors reacting to the last year's pressure on corruption and not spending on development. This year they increased the development portion. So a bit of the growth is also linked to what we call increased development at county level.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're just about to take a look at a story about the budget estimates for this year, where, the National Treasury is actually placing it at about 2.3 trillion shillings. That is in estimates.
Yeah.
Do you think this is on the higher side, or you think we're just, within our limits?
The big gap in that number is the tax, because the projected tax numbers are a bit on the higher side. So how much the government will be able to borrow to fund the gap is indirectly the bigger issue in those numbers. And that's where Parliament and the ordinary Kenyans will need to participate in the debate. What is this level of borrowing that can be sustained by an economy like Kenya?
All right.
Yes.
Well, consumer prices as well in Kenya rose this year and the past few years, actually, but that was by about 5.27 year on year in April of 2016. That is from a 6.45% increase in inflation in March. Now, it has reached the lowest figure since June of 2013, and the month-on-month consumer prices as well aged up by 0.69%, following a 0.76% rise in the previous month, and food inflation went up to 1.5%. In May of 2008, we did see a number of, we actually did record the lowest inflation rates, and it kept going up. And I think in 2012 we were doing quite very badly. 2013 we were doing badly too. But the CVK governor recently spoke about the outlook of Kenya and what he thinks about the macro environment in the country.
All of us will need to take our responsibilities seriously. And I'm talking, for instance, the board. Being on a board, you have certain responsibilities. Again, we are talking about banks, but you have very clear responsibilities. You are part of you're overseeing resources that have been provided to you in trust. So there is a fiduciary responsibility that comes with that. And you have to discharge it correctly. So when you go to a board meeting, you have to follow those, let's say, standards or requirements.
And that's the CVK governor. What do you think about his remarks?
I think he's re-emphasizing a major point, which is to do with governance. But what we have suggested to the governor is we need to look at how you pick directors of the boards in banks. What informs you which names you should ask to join your board. Currently, there is a lot of what we call the known type of a factor. We were with you, you are my relative. So you're not looking for quality, you're looking for relations. What that means, in short, is that when you come to the directors misusing their power, it's very easy, because the chair is basically the one driving the process. So the governor needs to think through how do you bring a process that gives the ordinary person a voice in the board. Yes.
All right. But earlier he also talked about the fact that he still believes that the economy is going to grow this year. And he gave an example, though I guess that is not what he was talking about right there. He gave an example of how he thinks inflation could drop even further from where we are right now. And he says that, food prices are going to continue to lower, that is aided by the low fuel prices. But going forward, do you think that there are some indicators that Kenya needs to look into more cautiously and also critically, so that we can maintain what we are seeing at the moment?
You see, the growth of an economy is basically people will feel it if it is growing. They are what we call structure growth, which is like we have more roads, we have more railways, we have more airports. That's a structure growth of the economy. For the people to have an economic growth, those people themselves need to feel that growth. Now, coming to the detail, when you reduce cost of living, people will feel it because they are basically seeing a saving out of what they spend on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
If interest rates on loans goes down, then people will feel it because they'll start participating in a bigger number. But when you come to your actual question, the bigger drivers that we are missing in the economy is unemployment. That's a bigger driver. We are yet to rethink what are these fundamentals this economy requires to overgrow employment. And one of them which government is missing without knowing is basically in the whole area of art and culture and media. How much regulatory framework do you require vis-a-vis how you want people to grow that particular industry? So we have an industry which gives us opportunity to overgrow and overexpand it, but we are also, without knowing, overkilling it with excess regulation.
Right.
So that's an area that government needs to think about. Currently, they have praised what we call the Kenya Film Corporation and the Ministry of Sports, which to my mind is a misplacement. Because Kenya Film is a place where if you give it enough funding, if you give it enough attention the way we give tourism, you can generate excess jobs for the youth out of that.
And youth unemployment right now is at
Then
its
of course you have the whole area of IT, content development. In other words, what I'm trying to bring to the table, the system of government needs to wake up from the traditional agriculture-driven thinking, because those are natural.
Yes.
And revert the people thinking to what I would call knowledge-led type of industries, which indirectly is the service side. And Kenya sits on a unique platform because you can offer that platform of service industry to the region. You can generate news in Kenya, which you can sell to the region. But what that means is that the people of Kenya need to have moved from the day-to-day noise making to generate some kind of platform East Africa-based news, which the region can buy.
All right.
And that way now you create more jobs.
Okay, so your final remarks regarding the economic outlook for 2016, do you think that there are some areas that Kenya could post, optimistic growth, maybe by the end of 2016?
Within the calendar, because there are two things which I think people are discussing.
Yeah.
There is the government year which finishes end of June.
Yes.
Which is this June. Within that remaining period is only this month and next month. So there's basically not major thing that can happen in the next 2 months.
Right.
But within the spirit of the whole calendar, what we would call up to December, the government can reorganize the whole corridor of corruption. If they tackle head-on what I would call allocated budget for the controller of budget, allocated budget to the Auditor General, and invoke the internal structures of making people work. Because if you use, for example, like the Huruma saga, you have a Schedule 4 in the Constitution which allocates the setting of standards, the supervision of what you call a good building to the national government.
Yes.
But somehow they are sitting with the funds, but they are using that language to ask the county to do what they don't have the funds for. So unlocking the bureaucracy side of the system of government, if we release the bureaucracy to focus more on doing things right and not controlling what people are doing, stopping the fight between the governors and the national government, and pushing the CSAs to move from making the president hear what is good to now facing the brutal, hard facts of the truth. So if I come to the youth, what is making the youth go to what we call the drugs? Right. What are the things I need to fix? What we are doing basically is asking, for an economy to grow, I need to increase the number of people participating in that economy. So any activity that throws people to be productive, whether it's drugs, whether it's idleness, are the areas government needs to sit back and confront in a radical basis. Then finally, if it's agriculture, is pushing the game from singing, we are doing Garana, pushing the game from we are doing Vatraisa in Eldred, to where are the crops to be sold? Where are the export markets for the things that people are currently doing? So if I'm having some bananas, if you're on Mombasa Road and you're looking at the number of ladies walking with bananas chasing the vehicles,
right.
If that lady would have been given a market to take the banana to the airport, so instead of spending time on the road, she is driving direct to the airport for those bananas to be exported in whichever other economy. Some of those economies is Congo. Congo is is waiting for Kenyan produce, and they have a virgin market. But where is the interconnectivity to Congo for the exporters?
All right.
So getting smarter, then finally is asking the bigger hard question. The
Which
standard
is?
gauge rail is reaching Nairobi in June. That's what the president told us.
Yes.
Where are the export items to be picked by the train to go back to Mombasa? Because you have a transport cost to come one way. If we don't have a return route, then the cost of bringing goods will still be high.
Right.
So sitting with the governors, because the governors have been allocated the area of agriculture by the Constitution, to challenge where are the production items which can be exported out with this railway.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's so much that we can talk about, but I guess where the markets are is the bigger question. Thank you
Yes.
so much,
Thank
Kariithi
you.
Murimi, for speaking to us. Kariithi Murimi is an economist giving us his views on the economic survey of 2015 released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. We'll now take a short break and we'll be back with more. We're also going to be speaking to Engineer Gerard Wangai, who is from the National Transport and Safety Authority on the inspection of vehicles, that is for all the private owned and commercially in use vehicles. So do stay with us.